In this video, we're going to go through just some basics of the software. So if you start on the quick start, down the bottom you've got six little buttons here that give you access to some of the different software packages that come bundled with the installation. The main one is the Show Designer, which is used for designing your light show to music. It's the main sort of software you'd use when you're designing your light show. The Device Manager is a little software tool for configuring your controllers, so you can take manual control of controllers and change some of the settings. A lot of the RS485 controllers come with a default device ID. Each of the devices has a unique ID on the network, so you have to use that device manager if you're using multiple controllers to set that device ID, because all the defaults are set to 1. The Device Sequence Manager is for using controllers standalone. So some of the controllers have a very simple built-in sequence that you can use, and that's a little utility that allows you to configure that or change that for your particular application. You can't do it to music, it's just standalone ones. The Show Player is for setting up schedules and actually running your display. So when you're running your display, you use that utility to configure schedules, so show can run from 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock in the evening. Configure what shows you want to run and how often you want them to run. The Media Player Client is a simple utility that allows you to use video projectors on a different computer. So it's a little client that you can run on a second computer that will just run a projector. You can run projectors from the main computer, but if you want a projector in another room, you can use that. And the Show Builder is our online service for creation of shows. If you haven't got time to design your own shows, you can use our Show Builder service to generate a reasonably good show for you. There is a help button over here that takes you to some online manuals. So there is manuals for the Show Designer and all the controllers. So you can quickly access manuals there, the online manuals, and then there's our forum and contact details if you need to get in touch with us. So the main one is the Show Designer. So we'll open that up now. Now, the first time you go in, it might prompt you to open a show, but there is some sample shows in here. So there is some very basic shows you can use. So there's some non-musical ones. There's one called 6 Trees and one called 2 Colour House. So they will load up and start playing. So you see this little window here is what we call the visualization window. It allows you to draw. This is a very simplistic one. Draw the lights on your display, and then you sort of get a feel for how they're going to look. So the basic layout of the software is that at the top you get these ribbon buttons. File, home, edit, effects, and layout here. You've got the stop, play, pause buttons here that control the play. The window that's displayed, this is a basic show. There are two sorts of layouts. One gives you a grid down the bottom, which we'll go into in a minute. But it's just a basic show. So you've got your channels set up down the side. You can see the various names of them. And then you get the timeline across. So depending on the duration of show, you've got all the events across your show. This one is configured for red and white lights, as you can see by the red and white blocks. So whenever you've got a block on, that's where the lights turn on. So the door will light up white there, and the window will light up white there. And then you get these events here are fade up events, so the lights will gradually fade up there, And there's various other effects you'll see denoted, like these here with the bars. That's like a twinkle or a shimmer effect. And then where you've got it in multiple colours, that's where it's going to light up in both red and white. So you can play through, and then you'll see that's it fading up. If we pause it there, so everything's on white, and it'll go, everything comes on in red, and then it'll toggle red and white a few times. So, and then the individual items will come on one at a time like that. So that's the basic controls at the top. So you've got the play screen, so you can just play the contents of the screen you're working on, play from, play to. This particular show is a silent show. It doesn't have any music on it, but if we go in and have a look, there's a couple of ones with music here. So if we go in and have a look at the Dance of the Sugar Plum, you see when this starts playing, you see this has got visualization the same, and it's got some music playing as well. So you can see you've got some trees that were flashing in time. So now if we have a look at this one, you'll see this one. This is an advanced show. There's two different types. As I said, there's a basic one and a more advanced layout. The main difference is this bottom grid. So here, when you select a particular region, you'll see you get a zoomed in section at the bottom. Now, the play buttons here, you see there's a play bottom one on this one as well, which allows you just to play that region. So if you're working on this part of the show, you can just play that region. Apart from that, the basic and the advanced are pretty much the same. You just get this extra layer of grouping. So to insert events, you can select the region and then just select on, and then that will put an on event. Or if you wanted to fade down, you could do a fade down or a fade up or a flicker, any other sort of events you could do. And that'll add those events in for you. On that one, the stars are all in white, so you only get the options to do them in the white colour. But some of the other ones, like the Christmas tree, that has got different colours, you'll see you've got different options to do the white, red, green, or all colours. It depends on how you've configured and set up your display items in your show as to what colours you have available. One of the other benefits of this advanced layout is having the bottom and the top grid, as well as on the bottom being able to turn on individual items. So here we've got a line of trees, which is a group of 6 different trees, if you like. So you can work on these individual trees and turn them on the bottom grid, or you could turn all of those trees on by adding an event on the top grid. So you see here I've turned all the trees on and they've all come on in white. So if I play that bottom region, you'll see that all the trees have now come on in white. If I delete that and work on the bottom grid and just put a couple on, say, on in white, and when I play that, you'll see only 2 of them come on in white. So that gives you an extra way. It just makes it easy if you've got a lot of trees in a group. You can quickly turn them on just by working on the top grid, and that's same for fading up and fading down. So you can fade them all down if you wanted, like that, or fade them all up. And there's also things like chases that you can do on the top grid. It's called a cycle. So if you wanted to cycle through or do a chase across all your trees, you can quickly do it just by doing that, and it will give you a chase one by one across your items. Now all these items and events that get created, you can drag them and resize them with the little handles in the corner. So you can move them if you need to reposition them. The same on the bottom grid. So if you've got an event, you want to move them, you can do that. You can also use the keyboard to shuffle them with the arrow keys. Holding the control down allows you to move them left and right. And there's plus and minus to make them bigger and smaller. There is some buttons at the top that do the same. Depends if you like buttons on the tool button or keyboard. There is a shuffle left and shuffle right, which moves the events, and there's an increased duration and a reduced duration. Also, if you, I mean, I generally use the right mouse to get up this menu to insert events, but you can also insert them by clicking on the toolbar at the top, so you can select your colour and say whether you want to fade up or a fade down. If you're inserting a lot of events, you can lock it in an insert mode, so you can just click to insert, and that will then just insert wherever, or there's an erase mode if you just want to erase events. So that's the select, the insert and the erase mode. Or you can, there is an option to use the right click on the mouse to insert rather than the left. So that's your play buttons. You've got the control for inserting here. Those are for increasing the duration of events. You've got a control lights button here. If you've got controllers connected and you want to see what the lights look like, providing everything's configured and set up properly, then you can just click that, switch that button, and then it will also send commands out to your controllers. But if the controllers aren't connected, it's generally best to leave that switched off while you're playing around. You then got the configuration editor, which is where a lot of the configuration gets done for creating your items. We'll go through that a little bit later. You got the visualization, so you can toggle the visualization window on and off. Again, not all the shows, when you start a show, it doesn't have a visualization. It's something you have to add in afterwards. Again, we'll go into that in more detail on probably another video. There's a device manager that allows you to quickly access the device manager, which is particularly handy if you've got lights and controllers connected, because one thing you mustn't do, particularly with the controllers, is have multiple applications running. So you shouldn't have the show designer running and the device manager, because it's a serial network. Only one application can communicate to the devices at the time, so it's always best just to ensure you've only got one of these items running. So if you go back to the this window here, you should only have one of these particular software packages running, so you shouldn't start multiple at any one time. If you do need to get in to the device manager, it is safe to use that one to access the device manager. What else? We've got some quick access things here, so you can quickly get into the show builder and that license manager that we saw in the previous video. When we install the license, you can access that from here if you need to. Right, one other item that may be of interest is on the layout menu, you've got zoom options. So it comes up with the default zoom factors, but if you wanted to, you can zoom in the top screen to make the areas bigger or smaller. If you wanted to see more or all of your show in one go, you could zoom in and zoom out, and then you can return to the default zoom. If you've got musical track, you can also see the audio waveform along the top. Sometimes that helps you when you're trying to align things up to the music. And the same for the bottom grid. If you needed the waveform on the bottom, the zoom in, zoom out again. So you've got all of that. It's in the layout tab. Under the help, there is all access to the user guides, the user guide, and some of the manuals are also there. One important part in the user guide is how we define groups. You see in the show designer, items are grouped together into what we call display items. So that's an item in your display, or group of items in your display that are linked together, like a line of trees that you want to chase down, or an arch that you want to leap over. We term that as a display item. It's a group of items that act as one, if you like, in your display. So a line of trees like this would be a display item. And then within that, each tree is a segment, like segments of an orange. So each tree would be a separate segment within that display item. Or in the terms of an arch, the arch is a display item, but each sets of lights. Because if you're doing a leaping arch, you normally have like 6 sets of lights here that turn on in one after the other to give the leaping effect. So each set of lights would be called a segment here. And then there is a lower level that is the actual channels, which are connected to the physical lights. So if your tree has got red and green on, so you'd have a channel for red and a channel for green. So that's how all of these are set up in here. And if you go and look into the configuration editor, you will see these are the display items, like a line of trees. That's a display item. And then within the display item, you get your segments. And then within that segment, you will get your individual channels. In this case, each segment has only got one set of lights. But if you look at like the Christmas tree, that's got one segment, but it's got 3 sets of lights, which has got the green, the red, and the white. And that's how it knows when you're doing the events. It gives you the option of what colour lights you've got on. So you see in this configuration here, these lights are tied to a particular device. So here, green on the Christmas tree, we're saying is connected to controller number 3 on the first output, or channel 1 of that controller. If you look at the line of trees, you'll see these are connected onto controller ID 1, onto outputs 1 to 6. So in this configuration editor, there's different ways of viewing in this tree. You can view by the display items, or you can drill down into the network. So you'll see this is the network that we set up in the first video on the quick start, called Net 1. And you'll see this has got 3 controllers wired, 1, 2 and 3. And the first controller, that's got 6 outputs being used, which are controlling the various segments of the line of trees. Controller 2 has got the 6 stars on, and controller 3 is running the Christmas trees. So you can see, you can look by network here, or by display item. It's the same data at the end of the day. It's just different ways of showing it. Sometimes you'll want to drill down and see a particular controller and what's wired to it. You can look in there. And other times, if you want to see how a particular display item or segment is configured, you can look in there. One important point is this network, although it was set up from the quick start earlier on, you can click edit network if you change USB or change computer. Sometimes you might find that this COM port changes. You can select the COM port here. This is for the RS485 adapters. And you can run, with the professional license, if you need to, you can run multiple networks. We normally recommend the default speed. You can run it faster, providing you've got good cable. But we generally recommend that speed. But you can run multiple networks should you need to. Very few people need to, but you have got that as an option. And you can also run sort of DMX. If you've got any DMX networks, DMX equipment, you can actually run DMX as well. So you can set up a network there. And also our Ethernet controllers. If you've got any of our Ethernet pixel controllers, you'd create a network there. So give it a unique name. So then you have two networks, one for your 485 and one for any of the pixel controllers. So you can add and delete and edit your networks there through the configuration editor. The networks only need to be defined once. They're saved separately from your show, so you go and define it once and set it all up. If you need to change anything, and then it will be carried over to all your shows. In the show, you'll see that there's these dotted lines. These are what we call beat markers that have been added into the show. The way you insert these is with the beat tool. So once the music's playing, you can like tap in the rhythm or the beats that you want to align your events to, and it will then put these beat markers in. So these sample shows have still got some of the beat markers sort of left in there. And you can sort of add those to your show when you're doing them. So there is some tools here to clear the beat markers in all of the beat markers or just a selection. So if you just wanted to clear these ones, you can just select them and click the clear selection, and they'll get deleted. And then you can use the beat tool to tap. So when you play the top screen, when you stop, you see where I've tapped, it's put these beat markers in. So there is some adjustment here. If you've got a very fast reaction time or you're quite slow with the keyboard, you can tweak the speed there, and you can change, rather than just insert beats, you can actually insert events if you want to do it all in one hit. But generally we recommend you just insert a beat, and then you can line your events up to those beats. And again, you can play just sections if you want to check the timings. The other way of inserting beats rather than loading that window up is you can just use the space bar to while it's playing. You can just tap and get beats inserted. So you can use the control and space to insert while it's playing, or you can use that beat tool there. Again, you can clear the beats. If you don't find they're quite in the right place, you can just clear those and do the section again. But we find that quite useful for aligning the lights up to the rhythm of the music. Well, that sort of concludes this video. I hope you've found it useful. We'll cover more in the next one.